All right, we'll call this meeting to order. International Falls Economic Development Authority, Monday, April 18th, 2022. Approximately 6:35. Roll call, we're all here, I believe, except for the city attorney. We'll have approval of the minutes for EDA meeting minutes of January 18, 2022. We need board action on that, so if I could have a motion.
So move.
Okay, a motion from Leon Deach. Second?
Second.
Second from Joe Kraus. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, we'll take it to a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passed. Next on the agenda is audience. Anybody in the audience that wants to speak to IFEDA board about anything? Okay, there's none, so we'll move on. Accounts payable, financial reports. Approve the accounts payable as presented. Betty?
Yep, you have in your packet the accounts payable claim of $40,000 to the Cooch County Historical Society. That is as per the loan agreement that the EDA approved back in January for the repairs on their roof building. Yep. So they are moving forward with that. So she has written a letter requesting that to be released because we waited to give them the money till they were ready, you know, until they needed it. So at this time, we're asking for approval to release those funds as per the loan agreement.
Okay. So we've all had time to review that. Like a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Walt Buller made the motion. Second?
Second.
Second by Leon Deach. Any discussion on that? And if not, we'll vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion passed 5-0. Moving on, we have any reports, Betty, for IFEDA?
I have nothing.
Okay. Old business. Housing location study from Bolton and Mack.
What about the unaudited financials and the?
Did we miss some? I went past some, huh? We approve accounts payable as presented. Okay, we need to do the 2021 unaudited financials. Same thing, we need a motion there. A motion for that?
I will make that motion.
Okay, Joe Kraus. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Walt Buller. Any discussion on the 2021 unaudited financials? There's none. Take a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion passed 5-0. C, March 2022 unaudited financials. Need a motion.
So move.
Motion by Leon Deach. Second?
Second.
You, Harley?
No, you got it, me.
Walt was faster?
He was way faster.
Oh, okay. Walt Buller, second. Any discussion? There is none. We'll vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion passed 5-0. Okay, so we'll move to old business. Housing location study from Bolton and Mack. And what do we need to do? Discuss it with Betty Bergstrom, City Administrator.
We're going to have Ted and Jason come up and help us out with this one as well. But the EDA did approve back a while back of, contracting with Bolton and Mink to provide a housing study. And Ted and I have been meeting with them along with Kelly Myers over the past few months and determining locations and areas within our community. And then they were tasked with finding, if we're going to develop on this property, what needs to be done and how to move forward with that. And so what you have in front of you is the housing location study. It's, I don't even know how many pages long it is, outlining the different locations, along with the appendix, different appendixes attached. And Ted and I and Jason and Mike and Jane and Kelly missed the meeting, but he has reviewed the documents as well. We went through the final document just last week. And as a group, we kind of thought it would be best if we present this to you today, let you look at it, let you go through it, review it, and put together some questions and, excuse me, any information that you think is missing or you'd like to see. And then we have asked them to do a presentation at the next committee of the whole regarding this document to help have them explain to you how then to also move this forward and what steps need to be taken. And I'll turn it over to Ted and Jason with that.
It was very educational. But the key to this report, just like any report or study, is what you do with it when you get it. And they do have some items laid out, what they think we need to do to be able to improve housing and kickstart this program. And I think probably the biggest elephant in the room is whether you're going to have the HRA do it. But that's been the question, is that's, as we went through this whole thing, that's what HRAs do.
Not ours.
Well, but that's another big thing, is having easier access to housing. And one of the things that they recommend is having a actual website for housing that answers a lot of those questions, gives you the information of what you need to be able to develop housing in International Falls.
So just out of curiosity, housing site G. Just because.
Yep.
So it notes that there's no, okay, so housing site G is already parceled off.
It's planning.
It's platted.
Yep.
Housing site G is owned by Coochin County,
Mhm.
which has an HRA that could be utilized for this. I've spoken to the HRA director about housing site G. I've spoken to the land manager at Coochin County about housing site G and why it's platted. This report clearly states no wetlands identified, but the land manager states that this is an exceptionally wet parcel, which is why it was never developed.
So one of the biggest things is that I found interesting was some of the DNR access that they had online was tabletop. Out of all of the spots that they looked at, which everybody looks at an aerial map and says, yes, there's wetlands, or no, there's not.
Right.
But the one thing about it is, with it being platted, it deserves a closer look. And that's what they laid out here is, without actually physically doing a wetland delineation study, you really don't know.
Right.
But my question is, why was it platted?
Right.
Yep.
I mean, the street terminus is, the
That's what I
terminals are
mean.
there. It's the utility terminals are there. The street terminals are there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything is there to go. For those of you that aren't familiar with where Site G is, it's right behind the new water tower, right by South Falls Apartments. So that whole, I could show you on the map over there if you need me to, but that whole area has been platted. The area is owned by the county. I spoke to Kathy Johnson. She is the director of the Coochin County HRA, which would have jurisdiction over this project because this is county-owned property. So we had a conversation probably 2 years ago about this property, just because it's already platted. I mean, it's there is one legal downside to this, is that a humongous Section 8 housing development is adjacent to this property, which makes it not an ideal location because you cannot cluster your housing projects all in one location. So you would put all of your housing, you would have all of your Section 8 housing in one goes against the law. For those of us that are familiar with HRA laws, this isn't ideal for that. but it doesn't negate the fact that, but the county's take is that it's too wet to be developed. But if you read this, it says there's no identified wetlands. So that was the,
From
that was the part
where they
that was
were
interesting
looking.
to me.
And a prime example is, which I was surprised at, was when they looked at the Donahue property. And the one thing with the Donahue property was, don't develop it, make it a wetland bank. So you can make a wetland bank within the city with property that you own to be able to deal with a parcel like this. So you can delineate the wetlands by the Donahue property.
Which is on,
So-
this is on top of a hill on top of it.
Mhm.
You think about it logically, think about it topographically, it's on top of a hill.
I was shocked at the DNR website that they kept pulling up, showing where there were wetlands and where there weren't. Okay, and that's, but I'm sure, you know, you get into the weeds on this, there is going to be wetlands, but regardless of what we do within the city limits of International Falls, we're going to deal with wetlands.
Because that's the problem with F. That's why Northland Counseling Center backed out of F.
Yep.
As an option because it's wet. So, which is basically right across the street from G. So
How big is G?
G's gotta be, that's 40 acres plus, 43 acres. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all
that's
county,
all-
that's all county controlled. That's not controlled by KEDA or anybody. That's owned flat out by the county.
Hmm.
Which the county has an HRA that you would be able to tap, which would go around.
Yeah, but I'm sure they wouldn't want to annex.
It's already in the city. There is no annexation. It's already in the city. The whole plat's in the city.
Maybe we could do a swap.
A swap? I don't know that we have enough property. Just because I can. The property that we're talking about is right here. It's this 40 acres right here. It's in the city. It's already platted. This street cut is already made to the property. Each one of these streets, they already terminate here. It's already set up. Utilities all end right here on this avenue. Forgive me, I don't know. I can't identify this avenue. It must be probably about Fifth, Fourth East, Fifth East. Yeah. So I mean, the utilities are already, and the craziest part about it is it's underground utilities. It's underground power. I mean, nat gas is already here. Vidco, I mean, everything's here. All your city utilities are already here. But it's too wet.
Is there any other restrictions besides being too wet? Is there like how close you can be to a water tower or?
No.
No restriction there, huh?
No, your only concern would be your neighborhood concerns having this very large Section 8 property right here. You would be stating it'd have to be mixed use.
Well, right, and there is a mixed, you know, it's not just all multifamily housing, it's for single-family homes, and I think, G, that was kind of the intention with that. Whereas if you look at
Which is one of my favorites because we own it.
if you look at D, which is, if you look at housing site D, that, I'm assuming that piece of property was more multifamily housing. So there is a mishmash. That's kind of my word of the day, is mishmash, but single family homes, multi-use, and multifamily homes. So and that's the adjoining property to the American.
That's shovel ready.
Yes, I don't know where we're at, if we're just kind of jumping around, because as I understand it, we're gonna just kind of look at this over the next couple weeks and then come back. But if Appendix A, the housing memo, one of the things that I'm seeing on page 2, and just help me understand how to read this. Are we saying that we should have 120 plus houses in our community as a rehab, and we need approximately 100 houses as affordable housing, an additional 80? Is that how I'm supposed to be reading that? Okay. So when I see that apartments is at a little over 20, are we saying 20 apartments or 20 apartment units? Are we saying 20 new apartments or are we saying an apartment with 20 units inside of it?
I don't think it's 20 units.
20 apartment complexes?
Well, of varying size, I'm assuming.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand the. I mean, the way I'm looking at this, there's no way we can be, maybe I'm way wrong. But just looking at that thing, if we were to fix everything according to that graph, that's 120, 220, 300, 380, 400, 440, 480, approximately 500 units short in our community. That doesn't make sense in my head. And I'm not trying to fight the program. I'm just trying to understand it.
And that's kind of the reason why we were giving you the report.
Okay,
A
I
little bit early.
appreciate that.
And
I'm
that's
not-
why, hence the reason why when they asked, do you guys want to present this? And I said,
No,
heck no. Right? But we wanted to give it to, we didn't want to dump it on you the day they're here
yeah,
so that you wouldn't have those kind of questions.
okay. And the reason I ask that is, and for the rest of the council, we've been talked to by a person that wants to rehab a building into approximately 80 single one-bedroom apartments. Well, looking at this, the way I'm reading it is that's not a need that we have in the community, you know, and that's how I'm reading it. But I think we just have to be with an open mind to be able to keep our questions and have them answered later.
When are they presenting it?
I think we were basically asking if it was okay to do it at the next committee of the whole meeting.
Mr. Mayor, for
Oh,
clarification.
it's actually his meeting.
Sorry. Well, but I'm answering your question. For clarification, this is a survey.
Yeah.
This is a survey of residents that was done for the comp plan.
Thank
And
you.
this is where they saw the need.
Okay, thank you.
This is not needs identified by, this is a survey.
Okay, I feel a lot better. And like I said, just seeing this really quick and going through it, just having some questions.
Yeah,
I
a survey of 333 respondents,
greatly appreciate that.
Yeah. 244 completed the survey. These are
Thank
their
you.
priorities.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And the one thing is that they've asked, you know,
Right.
because we've talked about the HRA. issue.
And next Monday, actually, we'll be having our April housing meet, the Kuching Housing Collaborative will be getting together next Monday. So I would assume that we can get this into Isaac's hands prior to that.
I haven't given it out to anybody prior to this meeting. I
Right.
figured once the council had it in their hands, then
Then we
we've
can
had
get
a
it
few
to
people
Isaac.
that have
yeah.
requested to look at it,
Sure.
but did not, move it out. Anybody who's received the packet obviously has it, but not
I guess-
outside of that.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yep.
for those of you that know, everything's kind of been my baby. The HRA's kind of been my bugaboo.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to sugarcoat it that our HRA hasn't done a housing project since Woodland Apartments. Anybody at this dais tell me what year that opened?
What's that?
Can you tell me what year Woodland Apartments opened?
Well, I know it's been there a long time.
1968.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I came
So-
in 75.
I was going to say 66. So
So anyway,
And they had a sign
yeah. So
right out front that it was part of a housing.
right. So I believe, and it might be six. I think it might be 66. The point is that, and again, and this is an IFEDA meeting. So we're discussing, IFEDA issues. and again, but this is an issue that the city is facing, is that, you know, we have a housing and redevelopment authority that the city has, that is operating a building, but that is all that the housing and redevelopment authority is doing. And there are a number of different things that they can be doing.
So it's been stagnant since 68.
I don't want to necessarily.
Is that the word
yeah,
you use, or?
well, I guess.
But nothing's been built.
Nothing's been built. For one reason or another, nothing's been built. You know, so there are options, I guess. You know, this is I'm not going to lie. This is different. This is a difficult place to have this discussion when you look at the Zoom up there and you see, you know, Radio and Randy Toms, and I'm not going to lie. But on the same token, I guess I'm carrying this torch, so here I am. But there are things that Housing and Redevelopment Authority can do. If you look at the Housing and Redevelopment Authority of Bemidji, for example, you can see that they operate a very large apartment complex in Northland Apartments. It's at 600 America Avenue, right across from the courthouse in Bemidji. And they also have 20 some odd houses at last count out in the community that they've built that are single family homes that they own and maintain. And every time they get enough money in, they take a foreclosed home or a burned down home or whatever, they get an empty lot and they build another one. If you were to drive around to Bemidji and you saw one, if I took you on a tour and I showed you one, you'd see them everywhere because they're cookie cutter. They all look the same. Once you see one, you'll see, oh, there's an HRA home there. Oh, there's another one over there. They're all over. They're spread out throughout the community.
So the HRA, do they come, and when they got, you know, ideas or whatever, do they come to the council? They come to the Economic Development Authority?
No, they're their own entity.
They're their own entity.
Entity. We can't tell them what to do. We can't.
Gotcha.
Nope, they are their own entity. So that's where we can make suggestions. And I'm not saying that they're doing a bad job. That's not what I'm here to say. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there are, you can always do more, right? Like, it's true of all of us, right? We can always do more. It's just that, but there are options, but they are not the only HRA. And that's why I brought up like G, for example, because the county has an HRA. It's based in Northholm. It's run by Kathy Johnson. No, she's retiring. So she's in the process of trying to hire somebody to fill her position. But we've had conversations through the Couchiching Housing Collaborative, which will meet next Monday, to kind of look at things. So
yes.
I agree with everything that Commissioner Kraus has said. It's just, you know, we're in a unique spot. The IFEDA has all the same powers as an HRA does, only we don't have to go to the HRA to do it. I mean, the EDA has the same exact toolbox as the HRA. The problem is we don't have the funds to do these projects. Going back to one of the things that, you know, I had asked the city administrator to do last month, and we've had a discussion, so it's not like this has been just thrown out on the table. But in the near future, we're going to have funds that come in with the park. Once the park is paid off, there's going to be funds that come into the city, and we don't want to just squander those funds. We want to make sure that we are utilizing those to put back into our community and utilize those for economic development, housing development, using the HRA capabilities that the city has, and slowly but surely try to do some of these things that Councillor Kraus is talking about. But you're right. I will agree with him wholeheartedly. The International Falls HRA that has ran Woodland Park Apartments has ran Woodland Apartments. That is their sole purpose. It was a concern with my predecessor, Mayor Anderson. It's been a concern of mine. However, we appoint people to those boards. It's their choices. It's their choice on what to do once they get in there. And, you know, it's nothing is happening. If we want something to happen in housing, it's something that we have to come up with a game plan. And I believe that this is a really good start. And as we get farther down the road, we can implement some of this stuff. But as of right now, we're taking baby steps to be able to look at the future.
I
But
think,
I agree with everything that Councilor Kraus just said.
I think we talked about when the Voyagers admin buildings were paid for, and that's a few years off yet. Am I right? It's X amount of years, so it's not like we're gonna have that money for a while yet.
This project isn't going to happen overnight either. I mean,
Oh,
this
that's
is,
true.
I mean, I just see this as a really good start, but
Mm.
there's no money. I mean,
Right.
that's the key that we have to understand. There's no money. There's no money coming in from the HRA over there. There's no money coming in from our EDA.
Mm.
So unless we come up with a game plan and plan for the future when we have it,
Mhm.
we're going to be spinning our wheels when we have the opportunity in the
So-
future.
We would do planning ahead of time before that building's paid for, looking at the future.
That's how I would look at it.
If I may, Mike.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, but I think that's too far off. I think we need to be doing something prior to that. I mean, and not that I have room on my plate, but our HRA, I think we need to engage them. I think we need to engage them. I think we need to, if we have some resources, and I don't know what Bolton and Mink may have to help in this area, but I really believe that we need to jumpstart them and give them the tools to do this, because they haven't done it. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it, just like we don't. The IFEDA does not have the tools right now and doesn't understand exactly how we need to start this process.
Mhm.
I know, the current director over there has worked and knows the directors out of Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is recently doing a bunch of housing projects as well. She knows how intense they are and what goes into them. And it's not that if, they start working on this, and if there is money that the HRAs can get now, we need to be doing that now. We need to, get somebody on board with her over there if that's what needs to be done, and give them the tools to start putting this stuff in place. And I am not exactly sure how we go about that, but I know Isaac has talked, at length about, starting those processes and that type of, in getting our HRA to take that step in moving that direction.
So it'd be a good recommendation to HRA to get together with like Grand Rapids and see how they're doing their different things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
a
And
good
ask
idea
them how do
for-
they start this. Mhm.
Would it be a good idea for a member or two to be involved from this board with Grand Rapids to see how they do it? So both, I mean, I'm just wondering, so we got a good idea what for the future.
I nominate Joe Kraus.
Joe Kraus, well, that'd be a good one. I mean, I'd go
It's
along
his
with that.
passion, 100%. It
Yeah.
is his passion. And I
And-
see
Yeah,
that from
and-
mayor, I see that on this board. It is his passion.
Yeah,
And I mean, just so that everybody knows, so that we're clear, Isaac that we're talking about is Isaac Meyer. He is, he's the planning and development director for Kutaska. He's based out of Grand Rapids, but he, works up here. He was very instrumental in the AB project. And he leads he's the facilitator of the meeting for the Kuching Housing Collaborative. They're the ones who did the housing study through Bacchus. So, we meet 6 times a year now. I'm really excited to present this at that meeting next Monday. So yeah, this is and I guess, my passion here is just because this is more on my professional end than in my political end. I mean, this is what I deal with at work. So this is more it's more of a professional thing for me.
we had, you got the mayor making a recommendation. You be able to go and visit with the Grand Rapids people and see how they're doing things and then report back to,
Absolutely.
you're willing to do that.
Absolutely.
Well, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I can connect with Isaac, and Isaac actually sits on their board. So yeah, I can.
Well, why don't we do that, Betty? We send Joel, and let him get all the details that are needed to make us, move forward towards the future. And it's in his heart. Nobody has that more in his heart on this board than he does. So that's the people you give it to, Let him go, and if you're willing to spend the time and
Yeah.
report
absolutely.
back,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's great. All
Absolutely.
right.
So would you want to invite our HRA to the committee of the whole to listen to the presentation from Bolton and Mink at the next committee of the whole?
Yeah.
That's the May 9th meeting.
Mhm.
And actually, then I would like to extend that invitation to any members of the housing committee then that would like to. We've got a pretty diverse group there too. I don't know. I mean, attendance has been lagging a little at that meeting, but I think that it's starting to kind of turn. So
Just my only thought on that is if it's a committee of the whole and we're inviting one group in, if we start getting a full room of people, I mean,
we're talking like 4 or 5 people.
okay,
If we could move that to the front of, I think if we could move that to the front of the agenda,
okay, fair
that
enough.
allows them to
Yeah.
lead, then they don't have to sit through the whole meeting if they don't
Sure.
want to.
Yeah.
To just hear what we have to say and or what we're talking about,
Yeah.
see that portion and then take off.
Okay. Good enough.
Better for you guys too.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we all done then, as far as for tonight with this housing?
With the housing portion.
Yeah.
So this will be, will you get this off to Isaac then? So
I
he'll
can,
have-
yes.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Okay. Moving on to new business.
Thanks, guys.
Authorizing the advertisement for bids for the site improvements project for the Voyageurs National Park Administration Building in conjunction with the city municipal and library improvement projects.
So at your last meeting, I got permission to continue on with the design and get the bids ready for the drainage improvements, sidewalk replacement at Voyageurs National Park. I just want to make sure you guys are okay if we put it out for bids.
Yes.
It needs to be done.
That they'll be all 3 in one bid.
All of them will be all in one bid. The
Okay.
only question I'd had for Betty, which I think, I don't know how it works with EDA and in our charter, is we're gonna have to follow the same bidding requirements. So we'll have to have it at 2 readings at the council. But whether you guys want to have a special EDA meeting to approve it, how that works. With the price level, it's going to be over 175,000. So somehow we got to do that balance act of how we get the EDA to approve the Voyageurs National Park side of it, plus the city council approving the steps improvements. Because we'd have to have 2 readings and advertise it. I don't know if the EDA follows the same rules, but since it's all one package.
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm very certain that we can fix that.
Just to be safe, we'll just do it the same way. Do it the way that would.
Just
Yeah,
have
could
an
have their
EDA
meeting.
meeting right after the city council meeting when it's ready. Approve what needs to be approved.
You can put it in the
We can
council
approve it
meeting.
now.
Yeah, whatever.
Can we approve it
However
now?
we have to do
Council
it.
approve it on Monday?
Whatever we have to do to legally make that handled, we can do that.
I make that motion.
You're making the motion for authorizing the advertisement for bids for the site improvements. Okay.
Yep.
You have a second?
Also,
Okay, we have a
Let him
second,
it.
Harley.
He's never said nothing yet. He hasn't seconded nothing today.
Any more discussion here?
They'll- excuse me,
Yep.
they'll come in three different, I mean, it'll be the package bid, but they're not gonna say one number and do all of it. It'll say so much for this one, so much for that
Yes.
one, so much for that one. I
Yep.
just wanna make sure that
Yep.
that way we can pick if we choose if we have to for some reason.
And that, it, yeah, and that comes, I mean, we have money set aside for some of this, right?
Basically, what we have is the maintenance money that we haven't
Right.
expended on an
Right.
annual basis. So we're not going to US Bank for any of the
Sure.
maintenance money that we're putting there. We're spending down the account that we have.
And I'd just like to add one thing. I don't know if you heard this, but at our last meeting earlier today, we had Bob DeGrosse, the superintendent of Voyageurs National Park here. And he said, you guys are doing a really good job keeping up that building. So I just want to, in case you hadn't had that heard, I just want to make sure that you know that they're noticing. So thank you.
He's sitting back there. He was smirking. I looked.
You saw the smirk?
Yeah, I saw the
They are, they are a very good tenant.
I saw the smirk.
Okay, we have discussion now, and part of that discussion, before we vote, if you could just explain real quickly what those improvements are again.
So it's a drain tile project around the outside perimeter
Yeah.
of the building, sidewalk replacement.
Okay.
There is I'll call it a valley where we have ice and water that builds up under the siding. So we're going to take that siding off and straighten that out. There's going to be rain gutters put on the entire building
Okay,
and just do a better job of getting the water
Yeah.
away from the building.
sure. Okay. Well, we'll take a vote now.
Aye.
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 Motion passed 5-0, authorizing the advertisement for bids. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else on the agenda? Doesn't look like it, so
One thing.
you're lucky because I almost hit.
I did speak with the city administrator. She had been looking into, how cities break out the EDA. And I think it was very interesting to find out that, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Can you just follow up with what you learned? Because it was very interesting for me to hear, and I think they should know too.
Well, we talked about understanding as an EDA, what is our, basic spending, support policy when somebody comes to the EDA for support on a project or things like this. And I put it out there to the league. I put it out on administration and finance to ask, what type of policies do you have in place? And I've received nothing. I did receive one other city said, I would be very interested in that information as well. So it's like,
Piggyback.
oh.
Wow.
So it's a good question.
Yeah.
The thing of it is nobody
no answer
there's no
yet.
answer.
Right. Yeah.
And one of the things that I've always thought, and we don't have to do this, but it's a guide, right? One of the things I've always thought is there are so many cities that we look at and be like, well, Virginia's doing a really good job at that. How does Virginia do that? And there's not a lot of cities calling and saying, hey, International Falls does that. They're doing a really good job at that. How do they do it? Maybe this is one of those things to come up with a financial policy on how to spend monies through your EDA to try to have a balance between your housing and your city projects for tourism and stuff like that. It's just, it looks like it's going to be a longer, more drawn out process, but I do think that it has real value for us. So when we do have that windfall, we don't just, the first company that comes to town, hey, here, please come and give us 150 jobs. I really think we need to be able to vet job or companies as they want to come in and utilize city property or purchase, or even more so than that, if someone needs financial help to get something off the ground, knowing that we have a policy on why we would do that or how much monies we would be able to put in or what percentage, just having policies in place, because it seems like we have to reinvent the wheel every time we do anything in our community. And I just think that that's something we have to keep on the front burner as we move forward.
Well, Betty, you mentioned that you called the League of Cities. Is that what? Did you call any individual towns like Grand Rapids that has
I didn't
EDA?
as of right now. No, I had not.
See, they've got EDA. They've been in that business for a long time. I mean, maybe that'd be a
That'd be
great
my
time.
next step is to reach out to, like you said, the Virginias, the Hibbings,
Yeah,
the, Grand Rapids of,
because I'm sure they got
similar.
policy.
They
For
got
their-
IRRB. That's what they got.
Well, I know they got help, but I think it'd be a good contact.
I agree. I just
Just to
don't-
see what they're doing and what their policy books are and,
That's something in there. Can't get it out.
so if that could be done, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Adjourn the meeting.